Alright, this is the first step in converting a Photoshop document to an actual website. First thing we need to do is build our website. So you can choose Illustrator or Photoshop to actually build your site. And remember, we talked about the size of the site is important. You need to design it 100%, and then when you get it to Photoshop, make sure it's RGB 72 DPI. Okay, we'll get to that later, but for now, I've built this website. It's a really simple website with 3 buttons. I've got my header and these 3 buttons, and these are the 3 active areas that I will change and manipulate later in Photoshop. For now, I'm just going to actually copy all this. I'm going to go to Photoshop, go to New, and it should actually copy the size of this Illustrator document over into the clipboard. So when it brings up my dialog box, it should show the exact dimensions of that box. Okay, for some reason it didn't bring it over, but I know that my site is going to be at least 800 at the max by 600, and I can always crop this down. Again, I want it 72 DPI and RGB. That should be correct. Those 4 fields are what you want to concentrate on. You name it. Let's name it website and hit OK. So now it'll bring up a new image box for me. 100%, right? That's what it looks like on screen. Your website will look on screen. And I've just pasted my Illustrator document into this Photoshop document. So it actually looks like it's big enough. Double click to apply inside the box, and now I've got my rasterized website that I've just built in Illustrator. Now the next thing, I need to crop down to this box. I don't want any extra margins. So using my crop tool, I'm going to go in here and crop my image. Double click within the box and it will set your selection. Okay, so now I have a perfectly cropped website. The next thing I need to do is set my buttons. So as I see in my layers palette, I've got my background and my layer I just added. I need to vectorize this or rasterize this layer. I'm going to double click on it. And it brings up I'm going to control click on this layer and go to rasterize layer. Okay, so now as before it was a shape, now it's a rasterized layer. Okay, the next step, I need to actually make layers for my separate button states. Okay, so I'm going to add a layer here, and with my layer on top I could actually make it below as well. I'm going to, for this example, make a color for each rollover state. So I'm going to select the area that I want to fill. Option delete will fill that area with the color I've selected. Now you can see that when I highlight that button or roll over, it will give me that red fill space. Alright. Now I could go back and do it for the rest of these buttons, but for now you can see how to make that work. Now the next thing, after I get my button states set in separate layers, remember, and always saving as a Photoshop file so I can preserve these layers. Next thing I'm going to do is make slices. Using the slice tool, I'm going to use the guides that I've set up. I haven't set guides up, so I need to set my guides up first around the button area that I want to be what they call the hit area. I could make it this complete button, but I'm just going to make it this box for now. Always give it a little more space too than you think. Buttons usually require more space. So I'm actually going to drag these guides down so they're right next to each other. Okay. space them out. Now with I've got that set up, now I'm ready to make my slices. So I'm going to first make slices of my buttons. And when I make a slice, it all of a sudden generates these other slices. But I need to make them anyway. One thing you do want to make sure you're snapping, because if you're not snapping, it'll have little gaps. You want to make sure you're snapping to your guides. Hopefully this should be snapped right there. Perfect. And now I'm going to make a slice of this other section. And now once I've got my button sliced, then it doesn't matter how I slice the rest of this up. And I'm going to do the top slice, I'm going to do this left hand slice, do these other 3 buttons, and do this last section here. Now as you can see, using my slice select tool, I have all these sliced and ready to go.